Hi, this is Leighton Jin. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary Animation Film Festival. It's March 25th to 29th at the Palm Springs Cultural Center. We have a very special guest with a very special movie, Frank Bitsoie, and he's the director of Desert Hotspot. The Desert Hotspot is a local movie, but a very impactful film, and I think everyone's going to find it very inspiring when once they know the topic. Fritz, why don't we just start and have you describe the documentary to everyone?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the interview. Looking forward to being at the festival next week. Um, Desert Hotspot is about Dr. Alejandra Franco. Um, it follows basically the story is about how this bright young woman utilized the free um, Wi-Fi available at a local McDonald's to apply and get into college and eventually earn a PhD.
It's amazing. So the McDonald's does it has that great tradition of giving people their first jobs and setting them on their way. And I know a lot of famous people have gotten their starts at McDonald's. But this one's very special. It's funny because when we call it Desert Hotspots, I always like to joke that doesn't include a lot of the cities here because it's hard to get Wi-Fi or connection in a lot of cities here in the Coachella Valley. How did you stumble across this story?
So with the story that it's in collaboration with Breakwater Studios, um, and they approached me about the film.
Hmm.
They thought it was a very fascinating um, story and individual. Um, Dr. Franco, she was um, just up for being in the film. I mean, I'm a freelance filmmaker myself, and I was really drawn to the idea of just the strong sense of support that her family has for her, and and this ever optimistic attitude that they carry for her and her future, and how coming to like, let me see, I'm just gonna collect my thoughts here a little bit, but I think what I really enjoyed about this story is that I think it's a very timely story. I think, when we're thinking about borders and we're thinking about who has access um, and who gets access to opportunity, there's a lot of conversations surrounding that. Um, I wanted to make a film you know, um, that could open up the floor for conversations surrounding that, but also focus on someone who just saw opportunity where others others might take advantage of that. I mean, not take, or take it for granted, not take advantage of it, but take it for granted that, a place like McDonald's, which has free Wi-Fi, could be a window for somebody to, lock in and find opportunity where others, aren't necessarily looking for that. And it raises other questions too about, um, the Dr. Alejandra Franco, I'm sorry. Um, Her PhD is does focus a little bit on the digital divide, which basically explores the issues surrounding the fact that in schools that we're increasingly relying on Wi-Fi, we're increasingly relying on internet, and how people basically need internet in order to get a job, to get into school. And there is a large part of the population who don't even have this basic necessity. And I think it's kind of taken for granted that um, internet should be available to everybody. Um, so I think a lot of these issues are within the film. But in the end, I was just really struck by how um, Dr. Franco just saw opportunities and something that we all just take for granted. Um, and there was just an opportunity for me to make a film that could just celebrate her family, celebrate her story in a way that you know, I think many times in films that explore storytellers and that come from underrepresented communities, there tends to be this kind of like, um, like an over like a intense focus on kind of like the trials and tribulations in their life or things that are holding them back kind of thing. But I myself come from the Navajo Nation, from a Native American tribe, and so I'm no stranger to these kind of stories. And I'm always thankful for an opportunity to go into um, these stories in my films and approach them in a way that feels like I'm celebrating the person's like life, or I'm kind of being not being optimistic, but at the same time still respecting the weight of some of the things they go through.
Well, I mean, Dr. Franco seems very inspiring. Just just the resourcefulness that she showed, and you're right. Wi-Fi we do take for granted. It's kind of accessible for a lot of us, but we forget that it's not accessible to a lot of people, and those opportunities aren't accessible. And I kind of appreciate talking about the educational part because sometimes we find education is becoming more and more inaccessible. I remember when I was going through school, I was able to partially pay for my school, and when I meet a lot of people, they can't imagine going to school. They talk about people going to trade school, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they go there because they don't want to go into debt, and that seems like a lot of people we're losing out on, and we're taking away. To me, education. I know Dr. Franco said it a different way, but very eloquently. My idea is that education always represents hope and upward mobility, and we're starting to take it away for a lot of people by pricing them out, and then with these student loans. Um, Through doing this film, and I'm sorry, that was a statement. I'm sorry, I just,
No,
but
no, no, not at all. But I very much align with that.
yeah. But as you did the film, what were some of the things that you learned for yourself that maybe you weren't aware of by taking on this project?
It's a good question. I'd say um, it was just really humbling to be in, not humbling, but I think with each project that I'm part of or that I get to direct, there's always a moment in which I carry around this little monitor, as the cinematographer is working, and there's always a moment in all my projects in which I'm looking at something on the screen and I peel my eyes away from it and I look around and I acknowledge the fact that like you know I would not be in this particular scenario if I wasn't in this line of work. And for example, like we there's a scene in the film in which we were out with the farm workers at dawn, before dawn, and it was incredibly enlightening to see um, that just seems like really hard work.
Hmm.
They're out there from I believe they go out there from like 9 9 p.m. or maybe like 11 p.m. they start. Some of them start from 1 a.m. and they work all the way till 9 a.m. Just because it's like that's the only time that's the sun's not out. And um, as we were out there going through this okra field, I recall we were in this lane of okra, and as I was walking through, I looked down at my hoodie and there's all these spiders
Oh, wow.
that I wasn't that I was just totally unaware of, and
Oh,
because
wow.
the workers will wear like nets, they wear nets, and it's like still very hot there. The heat is a very big part of this film as well, and we wanted to have that always hanging out in the background of this film, like whether it's the heat waves or just kind of highlighting just the temperatures that this film takes place at. Um, but I think that was a really something that I learned while we were filming out there was just um, just the fortitude and resilience a lot of these workers have out there while they're providing for their families, um, and that some people would see um, Dr. Franco's story as like as like a migrant story or so to speak, but I feel like as I was making this film, to me it felt like an American story, and I wanted to frame that through. I had this fun idea when we were first conceptualizing the film of like, what if I made it feel like a road movie, and what's more American than a road movie? And so we that's kind of what inspired a lot of these driving scenes, and trying to show the Coachella Valley as a place beyond just what people assume is, which is the festival. And I really wanted to dig deeper and make a film that the locals from that area and community could see as like um, a place that um, that I could see the charm in, that I could see that Dr. Franco, go to her favorite spots, go to the places that she enjoys, or the places that the locals can kind of celebrate, um, and just be able to see the community through that lens.
Yeah, I used to be a sports writer. I did some stuff in that side of the valley, the east side, and the thing that always strikes me about them is, and I come from a family of immigrants too, and what strikes me is just what these families do for their, what these parents do for their kids to create great opportunities for them. And my parents worked very hard, but and I don't want to minimize it, but I mean, I see what the farm families do to provide a better life for their kids, and the struggles. There's a lot more uncertainty than I've ever faced. I've seen other documentary about the East Valley, and I've always admired that. I think that's really the heart and soul of our valley in a lot of ways. I know everyone likes to talk about the very rich and the famous and all that stuff, but they provide the food and
Yeah,
the soul.
and her family is just so sweet. I wish it's hard making a short because there's so much that we had to leave out. Like there's so many moments we had with her family in which they're preparing a meal, and just living, just spending their lives together, and you just see how happy they are, and just like it's just evident in how much they have invested into their children and their kids, and just how proud they are of. And I just wanted that to come through in this film, something that they could sit down and watch like 10 years from now and still, you know, feel like it was like a home movie kind of thing, something they could just kind of sit down and watch, and um, rewatch, and be something that brings them closer.
I'm kind of curious. We several years ago we have this program with the Medill School of Journalism, and their students come by and bring their films. And one of the students actually came back and she won a film fund to turn her documentary short into a feature length, and now it's actually on Paramount Plus called Finding Ying Yang. And so I bring that up with you is, would you, if the opportunity arose, would you extend this film? Because I mean, it seems very rich with context and stuff that we're all gripping with now in terms of accessibility, immigrant stories, and I mean, it just strikes on a lot of things that are really pertinent today. Is that something you thought about, or is that something you're open to if you have it?
Um, I wouldn't say it's something I was really thinking about along the way. I think with all my projects, there is that aspect of it that always that thought that always comes about, like this film could be so much more. It could totally explore a lot of like the local economy. It could explore like larger, themes in that are happening in a country now. Could go beyond her story. But I think what I really like about short films is that um, I always like this metaphor of like they feel like Halloween candy. They're just small little nuggets in which we can be moved, and we find this escape into someone else's life for a short amount of time, but yet they can be very profound moments. And I think in feature films, you are in a way kind of weaving um, together a feature film, and where there has to be different types of story beats in order to tie the whole thing together. But what I really love about short films is that you can find one theme, um, which is finding connection, and creating opportunity in a place where a lot of people don't get that kind of opportunity. And I think that's kind of what really made this film so rewarding, as to keep as a short film. But yeah, that thought always crosses my mind with every project, is like, I wish I could make this longer, because regretfully, there's so many things that get left on the cutting room floor.
And I don't know. I mean, McDonald's is involved with this film. How involved were they? Are they just a supporter of the film, or what was that relationship like?
So McDonald's is like they have this series in which there's a series of films all celebrating that it's America's Diner. So there's like this number of films that Breakwater Studios put together and collaborate with McDonald's on about different stories that highlights, McDonald's as this place that um, could be a place where these remarkable stories could stem from. And so this film is just one of, um, a collection.
Have you tried the big arch yet, by the way?
No, I haven't. I haven't yet. But while we were filming, the manager at the McDonald's was very kind to bring us out like a whole assortment of nuggets. I don't think I've had enough as many nuggets as I did the day while we were shooting. But they were all really excited about us filming there. There's just so much. It's just it just became very apparent to myself and the crew about um, how entwined of like I don't know, just how nostalgic McDonald's is for everybody as a
Oh,
kid, as an adult. It is this place that will, regardless if the cinematographer is like vegan or like, well, not vegan, but regardless if like a crew member has, they grew up on the other side of the country, like we all have memories about being a kid. You get checked out of school, you get a shot or something like that. But then your parents take you to McDonald's to cheer you up. There's something that's like we kind of all have in common there. So that was fun um, to relive that, and I'm really happy that t today I got a chance to contribute in this way to make a film and to collaborate with a brand like that and to tell a story as personal as this. So I think in branded film, sometimes it feels as if it's like, oh, the you're kind of focused too much on larger things, but it's nice that this film can really focus on like such a small personal story.
yeah. Well, my dad sometimes would bring home Big Macs, and that we were just so excited every time he did. So yes, McDonald's has, it's touched all our lives in very positive ways. And I find
Yeah.
I just got to point out, I'm very excited that McDonald's is both premiering your film this month and The Big Arch. It's quite the 1-2 combination, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Had I known, maybe we would have like found a way to put that in the film.
Exactly,
No, but
exactly.
yeah, but it was great. It was great. There's a shot in the film in which she's like, working and typing in the restaurant. And that was really fun because we were able to, get some of the staff and get some people to kind of play along and create this like long creeping shot that we were zooming in very slowly. It was very cool. But I think in a short film, we quickly found out that yeah, maybe we can't put the entire long shot in there, but there's some of it in there. So
Oh,
um, they were fun to play along with when we are making a movie.
so so you've had a pretty good career. Can you talk about some of your past films for Desert Hotspot?
Sure. Actually, a couple of years ago, I had a film play at AmDocs as well called Through the Storm. It was about a football team from the Ojibwe Reservation in Minnesota, and they they had at the time of the film, at the time of shooting, they had not won a game in over 20 years. And so myself and co-director Charles Frank, we made this film that kind of celebrated the community, and we set out to make a film that intentionally didn't feel like a Bad News Bears type thing or something that was um, kind of going from the traditional sports story arc. We were
Mhm.
very much wanted to celebrate a community that was brave enough to hold on to something like hope and and really highlight a coach that was just doing everything he could to keep this football program alive. Um, and I've also recently just completed this pretty awesome project in the Washington State History Museum in Tacoma, in which there's a new permanent gallery at the Washington State History Museum, and it's called This Is Native Land, and it's a permanent gallery that um, tells the history of Washington State through an indigenous lens. And so myself and North Shore Productions, which is based out of Portland, um, we produced, I think, like over 12 films for this permanent exhibit, and they're all like short films, and they cover everything from like powwow to like fishing rights, dam removal, the language preservation. Um, and one of the films from this collection is called Talia, which is about young a young Indian relay race um, rider participant, I guess you could say. But if you're not familiar with Indian relay racing, it's an indigenous sport that's played mainly in the northern part of the U.S. and in Canada, in which participants race around a track bareback um, on horses, and after each lap they hop off a horse and they get on a fresh one and they race around, and it's very dangerous, very exciting. Usually the highlight of the rodeo, and the film is about um, this young woman named Talia, who's one of the few indigenous female racers. And that film just premiered at Big Sky Documentary Film Festival in Missoula. We were nominated for an award, but we didn't bring home a trophy. But still really cool that the film was received very well there, and I think it's heading to Seattle, or something. But that may not be. Maybe that's not. Maybe I shouldn't have said that yet. I don't think it's
Oh,
public.
we got breaking news here. Breaking news.
But yeah, that project's done. That's great. I'm also just continuing to direct short documentaries. That's kind of my thing. I'm always excited to work with Breakwater. I think Breakwater is in a great team. I love that they really respect the story. They're also very revered for their films, and so I definitely feel like I'm in company with people who not only care about doing a good job, but they're actually really good at what they do. And so it's great to um, just be in that company. So it's wonderful for me. Um, I'm based out of Sierra Madre. I'm originally from New Mexico, small town called Gallup. But yeah,
I
I
remember
just
Gallup.
love being in. Oh, right on. Yeah, that's my hometown. My family
Oh,
all lives out there.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Um, what do you remember about your first trip to AmDocs with Through the Storm? What was your
Mm,
experience like in Palm Springs, and what do you remember most about it?
I remember the quality of the screening and this and the theater was very beautiful. The colors were really nice. Um, and I remember just meeting the other filmmakers I met. Uh, they were also very kind and very like excited for the films to show. I think also just being in the area with my family, we just really enjoyed the community, the town. We spent a couple days there. Um, and just the assortment of films that we caught was also great as well. And some of the films that we saw there, I actually also remember catching in other festivals as well. But um, wonderful theater space. Like it's a really beautiful theater. I didn't know that that theater was there actually.
Hmm.
I was really surprised to find it there. But yeah, I also remember it being very hot too.
I hate to tell you this, it's going to be a little bit hotter. I remember earlier in the interview you were saying that you guys working through the heat. I was going to say we're working through the heat too. We've had an unseasonably hot spring right now, so don't pack too heavy with the clothes because it's going to be pretty hot when you come out here.
Yeah, I remember all the door handles being wrapped in like cloth or something, because it was burning everybody's hands. So I also remember while we were filming, um, it was so hot that like my glasses were burning my face.
Ooh,
That was pretty intense.
I've had some burn marks from my glasses here from just the heat accumulation. And I don't work in the hot fields like you did, so it's gonna be hot. But I would like to point out one of our sponsors is Desert Water Agency. They're providing water and water bottles, so you'll
Oh,
have that
sweet.
when you come out
Yeah,
here.
that'd be great. Yeah, it's really rare that I'm at a place that it's so hot that it doesn't matter if I'm wearing a hoodie or not. I needed like the UV protection, so I put on a hoodie, and I was like, at this point, it doesn't matter if I'm wearing this or not. It's just hot either way.
Oh, I know. You just need that protection. You really do. Um,
What?
one of the things I love about our festival and stuff is telling indigenous stories. And you've touched on it a little bit, but how important it is to get those stories out there. I've been seeing more and more about them out there, and I have a friend who's going to be at this year's festival. She does one about the indigenous people in Australia trying to save the barrier reef
Mm,
with scientists, and I think there's so much information and knowledge there that it's starting to become more available. What's that been like for you, and how and discuss how that's been a driving force for you?
well, I think one of my favorite things that I've noticed about uh, getting a chance to tell these stories, or something that I've always observed, is like in all the photographs of Native folks in the past, even if you just think about it in your head of like Geronimo or Sitting Bull, everyone is like stoic and, you know, pensive, or, they all have this expression. But once you lower the camera, and after the photo's taken, everyone goes back to smiling. It's just how we
Right.
are, like as the Native folks, we just like to laugh. And I think getting a chance to highlight that, you know, uh, um, is been a wonderful thing for me. I also love that, um, we are we that there are opportunities for indigenous filmmakers, um, or even filmmakers from other underrepresented communities to practice their own form of narrative sovereignty. Of like, it's not, it's not, it's what matters is also how these stories are told and who tells these stories. Um, I think something I think about all the time is one of my earlier films, called The Trails Before Us. Um, there was so many instances in which maybe there was interest in like, oh, this is a really beautiful landscape, let's get this shot. But to me, I'm thinking like, no, that truck's broken down. I don't, does it serve the story? We might have seen that before in other native films, but I don't want to focus too much on that. I want to focus on other parts of the Native American experience. We don't have to have a medicine man in the frame who's like giving an offering, and and with a feather and all that. Like, we don't need to do, like, those stories have been told already. Like, let's bring it into the modern space. I think that's been, and I think that's something that's like been really great to see lately, is that there's been, um, a surge of, um, films coming out that, tell a different side of like our experience of um, of our traditions, and cultures, and also like it's it's been it's also been refreshing to um, be in a space where, there's certain things that are sacred that we can't film. There's certain stories that we can't tell because the time of year that we're out filming, or the fact that we can honor these kind of, um, sensitivities, or these kind of boundaries that a lot of cultures have, that in the past may have just been ignored or just passed off as like, oh, that's just new age stuff. Like, I think it's cool that there is kind of room to, make space for ourselves in that way. And I definitely feel really grateful that I get to be in a position that I can contribute to that. Um, whether if it's, making a mountain biking film about a Navajo kid, or even just taking my love of genre movies, like, how can I incorporate this kind of visual language from these kind of movies into a documentary film. I think that's just been the coolest thing for me, because growing up when I was a kid, growing up in Colorado, Arizona, there's not a lot to do except watch a lot of movies. And like, my dad and my uncles had like the coolest VHS collections, and like, I'm excited. I'm so excited to share Highlander with my son when he gets old enough, and like, and what and watch like RoboCop with him and Terminator and all that, and like Bloodsport, like all the kind of movies that like had such a strong impact on me growing up, like The Thing and John Carpenter and like Into the Dragon. Like I think that in itself, the cinematic language of B movies is something I felt shared with a lot of other native guys because we all kind of just grew up watching the same movies. And for me personally, I feel like that's my way of, you know, of 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 expressing that side of myself is celebrating those kind of um, visual um, visual signatures that I see in other films and put them in my own movies in a small way. And I think in Desert Hotspot, that's probably just the excitement of being able to put a hostess tray, which is just a little, it's a device that we can put on the outside of her passenger window and just kind of film her driving around. And that was cool. So this film was definitely the first time I was able to experiment with really fun toys such as like dollies and other types of car rigs and things like that, and things that I haven't really had a chance to play with in the past. I've been on some really scrappy projects and um, I still turned out pretty awesome, but it was cool to be out in the okra farm with a Steadicam operator and get some really cool shots out there. So there was a lot of fun moments in this film that I'm really proud of that made it into this project.
Well, we're running out of time, Fritz. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about your wonderful film. When you come out here, maybe we'll have some people take you out for a big arch, or at least a Big Mac, or a Happy Meal,
Yeah,
or some nuggets, or something.
well, I'm gonna
Maybe a
say no to
milkshake. 'Cause
that.
it's gonna be so hot out here. Maybe just a milkshake at least.
Yeah, yeah, I won't say no to that. I mean, I'll be happy to be there, and I'm thankful for the chance for this film to be experienced on a large screen, and it's
Well,
just
we're
it's
we're
it's always great to see that.
well, we'll be happy to. We're happy to screen the film. I think it's an amazing film. It's a very local film, very timely film. We're all excited. The team here at AmDocs, we're excited to have have your film here at Breakwater Films, and it's going to be an exciting time, and it's a highlight for all of us here. So, Fritz, thank you so much for joining us, and I appreciate you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Layton. I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Okay, and then just for everyone really quickly, AmDocs is March 25th to 29th at the Palm Springs Cultural Center, www.amdocfilmfest.com to find information and tickets. Come on out and enjoy a little McDonald's while you're out here, okay? Fritz, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, thank you very much.